Hello and welcome to another PhotoMuse 2 to be exact. Again, it's Friday and I'm walking down Portobello again, but unlike last week, the market is over, but you can probably hear some shouting, some children screaming, and that is the Spanish school that flanks this part of Portobello Road, and they have a guy there who teaches football. You can't see because it's behind a high wall. There's somebody who teaches football and he just screams at the kids all the time. And but they seem to enjoy it. So, fair enough. So, I really just wanted to record something so I could keep the momentum up. And I believe this is a very good thing to do in the world of podcasting. I believe, and because there's always something to say, isn't there, about photography? I mean, you can't really, there can't be a day goes by when something doesn't occur to you about photography, and I just wanted to say that coming up, I'm booked in on July the 8th to have one of my conversations with the photographer Paddy Summerfield, who has just got a book out called Oxford 1968 to 78, but has of recent, which is published by Dowie Lewis, but has of recent years published a book about his parents called Mother and Father, and he lived with his parents as they went through the ignominies and the degradation of Alzheimer's, and he photographed them very sensitively as they declined. And that book was nominated by many commentators as their favourite book of 2014, and it really is a stunning book if you haven't seen it. And I recommend it highly. His book he lives in Oxford, and with his partner Patricia, and I met Paddy this week when I had to go to Oxford for a sort of function, and I didn't know anybody at this function. It was just extraordinary. I mean, actually, it was a sort of friend of my wife's, but she couldn't go, so I went in her name, as it were, and I knew nobody there. Now that doesn't really worry me. I mean, I'm not going to go and start talking to people, but I'm happy to be kind of quiet and just see what's going on. And I had a really nice time going around Oxford, which I've really only ever been to drunk before, so my knowledge of it is at night and hazy, to say the least. But this was a beautiful early summer's evening, and I took my bike, so I cycled round Oxford, and I can't recommend anything more. I really can't tell you how beautiful that place is if you haven't been, and if you have been, you know what I'm talking about. It is extraordinary. I do think that as a if I was a student there, it would be pretty imposing, and it would weigh heavily on you, all of that beauty and history. And I wonder how I would react to it as a student. But this is a digression. I was introduced by the people who are having this party to the one person they thought I might have something in common with, and it was Paddy and his partner Patricia, and we just became inseparable and just chatted all evening. It was so exciting. And Paddy's in his 70s. He's a true photographer, and by that I mean, I don't mean that there are different kinds and different grades of photographers, but I mean this chap is, to his genes, to his essence, a photographer. He would not know what to do without a camera. Not that he's taking pictures all the time, but it just is his way of living. And I don't mean financially, but it is just how he exists in the world. And we talked about that. Anyway, we got on so well, and I asked him if he'd be up for doing a little bit of a a recorded chat with me, like I do, and he said he was a little bit unsure at first because he didn't think he had anything interesting to say. I assure you, he absolutely does, and I convinced him that he'd want to do it. So I'm going to visit him and Patricia in a couple of weeks, and I can't wait. I'm really, really looking forward to it. He still prints everything himself and in his darkroom, not because he's anti-digital, just because that's what he does. And I'm going to find out more about all of that when I go and see him, and see his darkroom and see how he works and so on. Anyway, so that's coming up. More of the me reading my columns that appear in Black and White magazine. I think there's there's always one every month to come. I can't work out where I am in the cycle at the moment, and it's I always enjoy reading them again because it feels like I didn't write them, which is nice. Anyway, so I'm sort of still walking down Portobello Road into the covered section, and I just wanted to mention a sort of vague obsession that I've got at the moment, which is the new Leica MD, which is a Leica with no rear screen. So when you take pictures, it's just like having a film camera. You can't chimp, and you've got to stick with what you've shot. And the idea of it is extremely appealing, but I question whether it's not an affectation to remove the rear screen in this day and age where rear screens are just the expected thing, or two, if it's an unnecessary and maybe it's the same point, that's an unnecessary restriction on how you shoot. Now, personally, in my mind, I think of chimping and reshooting when what you look at on the back of your screen doesn't look quite like what you want, as a way of imposing yourself in the wrong way on your images. I see chimping as having a sort of preset idea about what perfection is, and then when you look at the back of your screen, you compare what you see with perfection, or your idea of perfection, and if it's not right, you reshoot it. So in a sense, you've removed the essence of creativity from it, and you're imposing more a prejudice on your images. And we're just going past the busker. I'm gonna fight 'em all. Should get quieter anymore. He was quite good. Actually, hang on. Let's just listen to him for a bit, because actually he's quite good. Hang on. It's quite amazing. And I'm talking to myself at night because I can't forget. Give him. And the feeling coming from my eyes says leave it alone. Yeah, he's quite good. Anyway, that's a musical digression, and I'm just wondering whether what you think about this, whether or not the restriction of not having a back screen is in fact an unnecessary affectation in this day and age, or is in fact a liberation from the tyranny of self-imposed perfectionism, which actually robs the imagery of the spontaneous. So I think I'm leaning towards that side of the argument, in fact, because it really isn't. If you think of all the great photographers, perfectionism isn't really part of their appeal. We might think their images are perfect, but their own perfectionism, their own sense of control of their images, is certainly not the guiding principle of their photography. Rather, what we like about them is their bravery in putting themselves in certain situations, their compositional eye, so many different different facets go to make up an image that we love. But perfectionism must come way down the list of reasons to love a picture. Yeah, it's got to be well printed or well exposed and so on, but it's not really the technicals that we admire, or at least it certainly isn't for me. It's the essence of the thing, and the essence of the thing is captured in that instant before you can even chimp and look at what you've shot. But that decision that makes you press the shutter release when you do, and that, I think, is what this camera will bring back to photography, because you can always turn off. I always turn off my rear view mirror, my LCD, because I don't like it flashing up anyway. I find it distracting. But I do, I can't resist, I should say, resorting to the chimp, resorting to looking at what I've got in the back of my camera, because that kind of perfectionism, I succumb to that kind of idea of perfectionism too. But actually, when I look at my work and the things that I like the most, they're not ones that I perfected. They're ones that just seem to strike the right balance. And I think we could all do with veering away from this idea that photography, despite its technical aspect, is about technical perfection, and move towards this idea that, which I think we've been sold by the likes of National Geographic and so on, those really colourful magazines where everything is pin sharp and Kodachrome colourful and all of that, which is beautiful in its way. But when it becomes a sort of heavy weight on the aesthetic of photography, it has to be rejected. And I think I'm in the process of going through a sort of wholesale rejection, and I think I have been for the last 5 years, of that kind of perfectness. Sometimes pictures end up perfect. I was looking at a Harry Gruyaert, if that's how you pronounce his name, book the other day, which I bought, and I love Harry Gruyaert. And some of his pictures are literally perfect, but they come from a kind of latent perfectionism, or an almost, accidental perfectionism, I guess that's the best way of putting it. So it's not really intended perfectionism; it just happens that way. And some of his pictures are totally not perfect, but they still work, like Saul Leiter, Anyway, so I think this sort of riff on the idea of the camera that has no LCD is in fact a deeper inquiry into the nature of spontaneity, perfectionism and aesthetics in photography today. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I just want to say that I'm walking down a street called All Saints Road. Now, if you live in West London, or you're familiar with West London, All Saints Road is a notorious road. In the 70s and 80s, it was really, I think, uncontroversially a no-go zone. And then the only people who went there were looking for things they shouldn't be looking for. And of course, being young and living in this area, one came occasionally looking for things that one really oughtn't be looking for. And it was a real thrill because you really weren't meant to be here. And now, wind forward 20, 30 years, and I can just stroll down with a microphone in my hand, which I would never, ever, ever have dared believe was possible a few years ago. And I find it really strange. Now over to my right there's a playground, which I'm sure you can hear, and there's a mother, I presume, dressed in black and white, and she's pushing a swing with 4 children in it who are just loving it. It's fantastic. And the little park space is a sort of parabola shape, it's a sort of triangle but with odd sides, and it's overgrown with plane trees and other trees whose name escapes me. Lime trees, I spotted a lime tree there, but there's definitely other trees, many of them. And it's sunlit and dappled on a beautiful summer's afternoon. And all is very pretty round the eastern side of Portobello Road, which incidentally, which it used not to be by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm now just extending this walk a little longer because it's so beautiful, and I'm walking down Basing Street. Now, some of you may know what happened on the corner of Lancaster Road and Basing Street in 1985, and it was at I'm going to take a picture of it for the podcast and I'll show you. It's got boardings up outside it now, but it was it's where the first Live Aid single, Feed the World, was recorded. And I'm just going to take a picture because it looks like the whole place is closed up now. At the ZTT studios. There, I'm just taking a picture. And I never even knew it was going on at the time. Anyway, back to photography. And the latest thing that I've been working on recently is an exhibition for a photographer called Julian Fennick, who's got an exhibition opening on, I think it's the 1st of July, at the Sladmore Gallery at Sladmore Contemporary in Mayfair, and the exhibition is called 0 Hour. And look it up. And his name's Julian Fennick, spelt like the store, Fenwick. And what Julian has done is go to the battlefields of the Somme and photograph the actual battlefields according to maps and panoramas that were distributed to the soldiers, to the British soldiers on the front line, to identify where the front line was, where enemy battling, enemy machine gun emplacements were, and so forth. And he's gone back and located the exact same spots where these panoramas were taken from, and photographed them again. So they're very wide, very long. They're sort of 6 foot wide, these prints, and 12 inches high. And then he sends them to a calligrapher who puts calligraphy on them exactly as they would have been 100 years ago. And because it's the 100th anniversary, the centenary of the Battle of the Somme in July, and as I say, the middle month of the middle year of the First World War, and so I've been working on this for about 3 months, I think, with Jolien, and they are spectacular. prints, and there's a book out called 0 Hour of the images and the history behind them. And today he got a great review. He's had several good reviews for the book, and I'm sure he's going to get some good play for the exhibition, which is spectacular. And I just want to say that I've been so impressed with the way that this has been put together. I mean, it really has taken a huge amount of effort to make this work, because I don't know if you've ever tried writing on inkjet coated paper, but it's really, really hard. Everything spreads. It's the antithesis of what you're supposed to do to paper, is write on it. You can draw on it in pencil, ballpoint is fine, but use a nib or anything kind of liquidy and it's a mess. And so Joan has worked really hard to find a paper that will work with calligraphy, and as far as we know, and this is a trade secret, there is only one, and I am absolutely duty bound to keep that secret. But there is one. He went through about 40 or 50 papers to find it, and when he did, we bought every single roll we could find of it. We scoured everywhere for a particular batch number of a particular make of paper, and we bought everything. Anyway, so I'm so impressed with what's gone on behind the scenes for this. So please do check it out. The exhibition starts on the 1st of July. I think it's on for 2 weeks at the Sladmore Contemporary in Mayfair in London. And I think if you look up 0 Hour Jolyon Fenwick, you'll see that he has a... Hi, Mary. You'll find his website and you'll see how spectacular the pictures are. But you really need to see them in the flesh, because they're really, really spectacular. There's so much lovely detail in them. Anyway, I'm coming up Portobello Road at the end of this kind of meandering meander, and I'm looking at the people packing their stalls up and enjoying the sunshine. Oh yes, it's so good. I love it. But you know, as Werner Herzog said, as I discussed last week, he doesn't like it on his skin nor his film, and I'm the same. So there's no reason to photograph today. I don't feel kind of inspired at all to photograph. I feel very inspired to talk. And so I just wanted to let you know that this is what's coming up. This is what's occurring to me at the moment. Well, this is a very small amount of what's occurring to me at the moment. I'm always obsessing about something or other. And I'm going to bid you farewell. I hope you like these PhotoMuses. I certainly enjoy recording them because they sort of put my own thoughts straight. And I've got some great feedback regarding them, so thank you. And please don't hesitate to get in touch with me at alex@flowphotographic.com. That's alex@flowphotographic.com. Or you can get to me on Twitter or Facebook. I'm sure, just look up Alex Schneiderman, no R, one N, and I'm sure you can work it out. And I look forward to speaking to you very soon. Thank you very much for listening. Speak to you soon. Bye.